Welcome on into a live edition of Falcons Today. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We've got plenty to talk about on July 11th. Less than 2 weeks away until Falcons training camp breaks ground. We've got an interesting article from ESPN talking about Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix. We'll talk trades. We'll get to all of your questions in our mailbag. We're going to have a blast this Thursday afternoon. So, shout out your city. Let me know where you are watching from. It's always great to see how big a fan base is. And I always love to know where our viewers are watching from. So don't be a stranger. Get in the chat. We'll take this time to let everyone kind of click on the notification, get to YouTube, get into the stream, all that good stuff. So in the meantime, shout out your city. Let me know where you're watching from. I've got Axel Perez tuning in from Dawson. Floyd Donnelly is in Potsdam, New York. Trebo Howard, remember that I said he would start. I think you're talking about Michael Penix. I don't remember that, but I'll take your word for it, and I don't agree with that still. I still think Kirk Cousins will start. Carl Bryant is in Dover, Delaware. Marietta, Georgia in the house. We got Jason, as always, tuning in from sunny San Diego. James is in Atlanta. Jersey is in the house here. We've got a Cowgirl Nation from the A. Atlanta present and accounted for from Grand Limousine. I'll be in Atlanta, what is today, the 11th? Next weekend. I've got another, can you believe it, friend's wedding. This one's also not my friend's wedding. It's my fiance's friend's wedding, and that is next weekend. So I'm only bummed because I'm traveling to Atlanta Thursday night, which means Friday I won't be at home, which means I can't play NCAA when it drops. And that set in like 2 days ago. And I was like, oh my God, it just clicked.
So unfortunate.
I won't be able to play for the full first weekend. Like, I am devastated.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yes, so got that going on for me. Ross is in Missoula, Montana. I went to Missoula. It'll be 3 years ago. Actually, 3 years ago, right around now, had some of the best pizza in my life in Missoula.
Really?
Oh, yeah. We had just gotten a puppy, and there's some weird city ordinance that you can't have a dog in a bar or restaurant, like on a patio.
Yeah.
So we would go to this pizza place, get the pizza to go, and then take it next door to this place that did allow dogs.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
And great beers, great pizza. Had a blast in Missoula. Would love to go back. Emrod is in Dallas. I've got Iowa here, Jefferson City, Missouri, East St. Louis. All right. Before we get any further in today's show, we are going to try and get to some Falcons content, believe it or not. So what's the first Falcons jersey you ever owned? Maybe it's Matt Ryan, Michael Vick, Riggins. Let me know in the comment section the first Falcons jersey you ever owned. Let's see what we got going here. We got James Jeffries, Villarica. We got some more shout-outs coming in from Kokomo, Indiana. I don't think that's a real town, is it? Cordell Patterson, Michael Vick. Ross is saying Julio Jones. Jason going with Deion Sanders. Frank going with Michael Vick. Jordan going with Julio Jones. I wonder if a fan base has ever... No, I was going to say, have we ever had a fan base have one player make up such a vast majority of jersey sales?
Tom Brady.
That's what I was going to. For a 5-year span, Michael Vick got 95% of Falcons jersey sales. But Tom Brady and the Patriots, I'm sure there were some Gronks and Randy Mosses and whatnot throughout the eras, but Tom Brady has to have the highest percentage of individual sales for a team. Yeah. Whereas
Mahomes is up there.
But you got some Kelseys.
You do have
There were a
Kelce's,
lot of Tyreek Hills, probably some Chris Joneses.
Yeah, not as much though.
For example, here's a really diluted one. Cowboys. There's a lot of Dax. There's a lot of Micah Parsons. A lot of CeeDee Lambs.
There was a lot of Tony Romos, though.
That is true. Eagles is a good diluted one, too.
Yes.
Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown.
Just means because they have so many good players.
Yeah, a lot of good players. Roddy White, Todd Gurley.
Ooh,
Yeah, pour one out for you. I hope that was a Georgia Todd Gurley jersey. Kyle Pitts, Steve Bartkowski coming in from Grand Limousine. Ray Buchanan coming in from Mitchell White. So we got some oldies in the house. I love it. All right. We're talking quarterbacks today. We're talking Kirk Cousins. So ESPN, and I won't reveal the entire video to you guys, but foreshadowing, is not too optimistic about Kirk Cousins being here for the duration of his contract, or much of it. So will Kirk Cousins play just one season in Atlanta? Will he be one and done, and then they go right to Michael Penix? Give me a yes, give me a no. Don't worry. Not going to circle back on this in the year and say I told you so one way or the other. Like, this is a big prediction to make. It's a tough one to make, too. Right? There's a lot of guessing going on here. You got to guess if Kirk Cousins plays well, and you got to guess if Michael Penix looks good in practice, because I think if the Falcons move on from Kirk Cousins, even if he stinks to high heaven this year, they need to see Michael Penix look good in practice. Because if Michael Penix can't play well in practice, could you imagine dumping Kirk Cousins and then dating an uglier girl? Like, that's kind of what you're on track for. That is dumping someone and then dating the fatty. Like, that's not going to go well. So if you move on from Kirk Cousins, you've got to have a good backup plan in place with Michael Penix to hit immediately.
I mean, from drafting Michael Penix, it feels like that's what they're trying to do. But at the same time, when you give Kirk Cousins so much money and then be like, all right, we drafted your backup at number 8. Like, I get, like, maybe you draft Spencer Rattler at later round.
Right.
Something like that where, he'll develop into it or something, but you can't be running through these quarterbacks like you ran through Desmond Ridder. Like, I don't know.
Jason, will I have to drink for a show? Yeah, Jason, you specifically will have to do a drunk episode if Kirk Cousins is here for only one season. All right, we've got a question coming up, we got a mailbag coming up later on in today's show. So if you have a question, use hashtag Falcons in our live chat right now. Our software will see the hashtag Falcons, pull your message, and put it on screen for me to answer. Or if you want to guarantee your question gets on screen because producer Reed will pick his favorite hashtag Falcons questions, well, super chat and just get the line. It's almost as if, like, you could call and maybe you get on the Paul Feinbaum show, or you can super call and you're guaranteed to talk to Paul. Although I am very, very far away from Paul Feinbaum in media rankings.
How I think about it.
I got on Paul Feinbaum one time in college.
How I think about it is Fast Pass at the
Fast Pass is a good one.
It's you're walking past all the people in the line and they're all like, "Oh, screw you," because you paid money.
There's like a new trend of people on Fast Pass recording themselves as they walk by and then talking shit about everyone waiting in line. They're like, "Can you believe these people just standing here waiting? What idiots!"
While they're down $300 for one pass.
All right, coming up live, we're going to talk Kirk Cousins being one and done potentially, some NFL trade rumors and how the Falcons could get involved with that going into training camp less than 2 weeks away, and then a mailbag, hashtag Falcons or super chat. Okay, are we ready to rock and roll? We got 50-plus people hanging out with us, just 21 likes. Let's get ourselves to 25 likes. That seems like an appropriate number. Can we get 4 more likes on today's live stream, and then we will start the show. I'm going on vacation tomorrow, just a little weekend trip, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We're supposed to go on a beach trip to Galveston, Texas, and unfortunately, that has been canceled due to the hurricane that came through. So we had to audible, and now we're going to Fredericksburg, which is this kind of German town in the middle of Texas. Has a whole bunch of cool breweries. I think that's kind of fun. But here's the real kicker. This German town, it's got German breweries, like a little Germany, okay? And there's one of those, Helena, Georgia. If you've ever been there, I think it's similar, although I can't say for sure because I haven't been to Fredericksburg yet. This little German town in Texas has a World War II museum in it.
Oh, that's right up your alley.
It's right up my alley. I'm very excited for it. It is not my fiance's alley. We're going with another couple friend of ours, and it's definitely up the guy's alley and not up the girl's alley.
That's perfect.
Here's the funny thing. It's just the Pacific Theater of World War II. Does anyone else think it's a little peculiar, questionable, that the little German town in Texas has a World War II museum and decided, let's only focus on one half of that war. Let's not talk about what happened in the other half of the world, in Europe maybe, where we may be at fault for that. I'm a little excited to get in there and start asking questions like, so you decided to only talk about what the Japanese did in World War II. We're not going to address the other side? Okay. That seems appropriate.
The museum curator is going to hate me.
Yeah, I'm excited. Life of a Ham, a Giants Cup. It is a Giants Cup, and I've got a fair story as to why I have a Giants Cup. So this would have been a few months ago. There was like a dish war at Chat Sports where people weren't cleaning up their dishes. There's no dishwasher. It's like a sink system only. And some dishes were starting to get a little bit stinky. And our boss would get pissed at us. And I was like, you know what? I'll just get this Giants cup because our Giants guy had a season ticket holder send him a whole care package of gifts that he got as a season ticket holder. And I know that no one else is going to use the Giants cup. So it's just mine because all the other cups are the same like Target cups. They're like gray or blue. So you don't know which one could be yours that you cleaned. But I know that no one else uses the Giants cup because it's just me and the Giants guy that got it. And he has like a red one. So I use a Giants cup because that way I can ensure no one else could possibly use the same cup as me.
That's a good. It's also, Marsh. Why is your cup here?
Yeah,
it's not mine. It's Giants.
All right, are we ready to jump into today's show?
I think so.
All right, here we go. Mason B, good to see you, man. I hope you're having a good Thursday. Appreciate you tuning in. Okay, we're talking Kirk Cousins. Yep, sounds good. All right, get yourself set up for the other side, and then we will talk Kirk Cousins and talk Michael Penix and everything else surrounding the Falcons quarterbacks. We got Frank Lopez asking some questions. Appreciate it, Frank. We got Jason in the chat here. Carl, I see your question, but you can't put a space between the hashtag and Falcons. Bomb those two bad boys. Okay, let's talk Kirk Cousins. All right, we're going to take two that. Take two. Okay. Grand Limousine in the chat. Don't worry, Carl. All right. You guys get to get a sneak peek at what is to come on today's show. That's kind of the beauty of doing a live show. You get to see how the sausage is made, so to speak. All right, here we go. Oh, push it across, then we go. All right. We're at 32 likes, by the way, so thank you to everyone who liked the video. It's super cliche, and whenever I'm like a consumer of another content creator, I'm like, I'll like it if I feel like it. But then when you're on this side of the camera, you're like, you're better like the video. All right, here we go. Take two. We're talking Kirk Cousins on today's episode, but I want to get the pulse of everyone watching first. Do you guys actually believe Kirk Cousins could be one and done in Atlanta? I don't, but if there are some of you out there that believe that, don't be afraid. Get in the comment section, let me know, or you can side with me, and I believe the majority in typing my N for no. Welcome on into Falcons Today. Matthew Peterson here talking about Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix. Because ESPN's Dan Graziano put out an article where he went through some of the overreactions during the NFL offseason and said if they were or not an overreaction. And for Kirk Cousins, he said this is not an overreaction, that there's a real possibility Cousins could be one and done in Atlanta following the Michael Penix draft pick. Now, let's first look at what Dan wrote, and then we'll start to rip it to shreds. So Graziano wrote, imagine a scenario in which the Falcons struggle this season and decide to move to Penix in 2024. Or how about a scenario in which the constant presence of a top 10 pick at his position looking over his shoulder frustrates Cousins to the point that he wants out? Could the Falcons trade him after 1 year? So let me start by saying if Kirk Cousins is gone after 2024, everyone's getting fired. I think that's pretty fair to say. Like, you got, when I say you, Terry Fontenot, Raheem Morris got Arthur Blank to sign off on writing a $180 million check. And sure, Kirk Cousins won't get all $180 million, but he's going to get all the guaranteed. And if he only plays one season in Atlanta, you are paying him $90 million for one season. That has to be the biggest payday in the history of the NFL. So if you get your boss to agree to this and then pull the plug after one season, who do you think's on the hook? Fontenot and Raheem Morris are. So no, Dan, I don't see a world where they pull Kirk Cousins this year because Michael Penix is breathing over his shoulder. They're adults. Be professionals about it. This is the NFL. Kirk Cousins was breathing over RG3's shoulder. What happened? He won the job after a couple of years. Not the first year. So no, I don't think that we're going to see them make a switch after 1 year. Because if that's the case, Fontenot and Raheem Morris are signing their death certificates. Let's continue reading. Dan also wrote, the short answer is yes, though it wouldn't be the cleanest move ever. Cousins is guaranteed $27.5 million for 2025, and he has a $10 million 2026 roster bonus that becomes fully guaranteed at the start of the 2025 league year this coming March. So any acquiring team would be on the hook for $37.5 million, more than reasonable for a good starting quarterback in 2025. None of that's wrong. $37.5 million for a really good quarterback like Kirk Cousins is an awesome deal that all 32 teams would sign up for. But Kirk Cousins, if you don't know, has a no-trade clause in his contract. So let's just say Kirk Cousins is slightly underwhelming this year and maybe doesn't live up to the contract. He signed this contract because, and he was direct about it, so he could retire a Falcon. He doesn't want to go to a new team. He did that with the Vikings. He's come over to the Falcons. It is clear he wants to stay a Falcon and retire a Falcon. He wants to ride off into the sunset in Atlanta. So I don't think he's going to be opting into a trade after one season. I don't buy it. Even if it's great for another team, you have to get Kirk Cousins on board. And I don't see that happening. Press on. From the Falcons' end, cutting Cousins after this season would saddle them with a $65 million dead money cap charge in 2025 and mean they will have paid him $90 million for one season. So that's pretty unlikely. Trading Cousins would mean a $37.5 million dead money charge for 2025, and they would have paid him $62.5 million for one season. That's also not ideal. But if Atlanta really believes in Penix and thinks he's ready at that point, it's not prohibitive. I think halfway through writing that last paragraph, Dan Graziano realized, yeah, this doesn't have a chance actually. Like, I've been there before. I've gone into a video with a premeditated opinion, and after doing research on it, I realized the research didn't really back up what I thought. And believe it or not, I just kind of alter my opinion, where I go, you know what? This isn't what I thought it was, and it's proving to be the opposite. So I'll come in this with a new approach. Dan, you should have realized it ain't happening after 1 year for all the reasons you pointed out. That's the crazy thing. He did the greatest job of presenting a closing argument for the other side of the aisle. He is like a defense attorney's dream. The guy went up there and told the jury a whole bunch of reasons as to why that murder was not committed by that man, and then sat down. The defense attorney's like, I have nothing more to add. Thank you very much, Dan. You made all the points that I would have made. Kirk Cousins, bottom line, is here for 2 seasons minimum. Kirk Cousins, are you guys ready for this? Is a Falcon for 2024 and 2025. I will go out and say, it's done. This one cannot fail. The other ones might have failed. Looking at you, Bill. Looking at you, Justin. Looking at you, Dallas. Not this one. Kirk Cousins is a Falcon for 2024 and 2025 minimum. And we don't have to think of a punishment because it won't happen. Why? I've got 65 million reasons to bet on it. If they move on from Kirk Cousins after this season, there's a $65 million dead cap hit waiting for them in 2025. Like, that's just $65 million that you cannot spend on other players in free agency. Now, we have seen teams put up monster dead cap hits before. Most notably, like the Atlanta Falcons themselves. But Matt Ryan's dead cap hit when he went to the Colts was only a $40 million dead cap hit. We're talking about adding an extra $25 million on, which with the way the cap has increased from a percentage standpoint, I'm not going to do the math, but it might not be all that far off. However, Russell Wilson and the Broncos did prove this year that if you want to move on from a player, you can make it happen. And if that means an $85 million dead cap hit, like, so be it. But when it comes to the idea of Kirk Cousins being one and done in Atlanta, it's okay to broach the subject because, like, we just looked at some data that proves that teams have taken on big dead cap hits before. This wouldn't be the largest in NFL history, only the second largest. But the idea of Penix replacing Cousins after one season, that is an overreaction. It is. Like, when they made that selection, there was a lot of thought and preparation that went into it and a lot of planning for the future. And I don't think that plan included dumping Kirk Cousins after 1 year. If that was the case, do you think they would have signed him to a 4-year contract? No. Like, if their plan all along was, we want Michael Penix, they would have just opted to not sign Kirk Cousins and start Penix now. Or sign like Gardner Minshew, someone much cheaper. They signed Kirk Cousins to a 4-year contract because they believe they can get 3 more good seasons out of him. That's the reality. And so that times up with a 5-year rookie contract, getting 2 years out of Michael Penix at the end of his deal, like we're kind of seeing with Jordan Love right now. Now, they're not apples to apples, and we've kind of gone over that before because Jordan Love was in the 8th overall pick. So if you miss on Penix, it's a much bigger blow than if you miss on the 26th overall draft pick. And also, Jordan Love sat behind Aaron Rodgers, so a little bit different. And he also wasn't the same age as Penix. But regardless, it is an overreaction, indeed, to say Penix will be here and starting as soon as 2025. It ain't happening. Now, before we wrap up today's video with the trivia question, training camp is closing in. We are less than 2 weeks away. I want to reach 23,000 subscribers before the first preseason game. We're 508 subscribers away. So if you enjoy the content we put out and you want more free Falcons content in your life, hit that subscribe button down below. Now, ESPN loves to put up a paywall for some of their really good articles, so I thought I'd give you guys a peek behind the curtain at some of the other overreactions that they had. One of them was Dak leaving in 2025. They said that is not an overreaction. He very well could be with another team as soon as next offseason as he enters a contract year. And I tend to agree with this one. That's a better take, Dan. Could we see a top wide receiver getting dealt before the season starts? He said this is an overreaction. And I also agree with that. Like, I don't think Brandon Aiyuk's going anywhere. I don't think CeeDee Lamb is going anywhere. I don't think T. Higgins is going anywhere. So as fun as it is, and hey, it is the NFL, crazy stuff does happen. I don't think we're going to see one of those big-name receivers get moved. Will the Steelers be quarterback hunting in 2025? Not an overreaction. I agree. Russell Wilson is on a 1-year deal. Justin Fields has 1 year left on his deal. How could they not be quarterback hunting in 2025? There is no quarterback under the contract for 2025. Then we have the Kirk Cousins one, which we can kind of just skip over after the video we just did on it. And then finally, are the Jets the #1 team in the AFC East? That is an overreaction. And I agree. I'm going to it's the New York Jets. I need to see it to believe it for them to be a competent franchise. And I have yet to see that happen yet. Sure, Rodgers getting injured spoiled that opportunity for them last year, but for now, they need to earn that privilege. All right, trivia for today. I'm going to give you guys 3 quarterbacks, and I want you to put them in order of the most amount of seasons with 25-plus touchdowns. Matt Ryan, Derek Carr, Matthew Stafford. So rank them in order, 1 through 3, of most amount of seasons with 25-plus touchdowns. If you want to think about it, pause the video because the answer is coming up right now. Matt Ryan, coming in first of the trio, he has 9 seasons with 25 or more touchdown passes. That's good for 7th best in the NFL. Matthew Stafford has 6 of those seasons, tied for 14th. And then Derek Carr has 4 seasons with 25-plus touchdowns, tied for 19th in NFL history. All right, that will do it for us on today's video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. Dan Graziano, if you're watching, I doubt you enjoyed it, but hopefully next time you come back with some better takes and insight on the Falcons. All right. What do we think? Is Dan just an idiot or what? Like, I've been where he's been before, and I usually don't like trash-talking national analysts when they talk about your specific team because they don't cover them daily, so maybe they let a thing or two slip between the cracks, and there's a bit of an oversight with the roster analysis. They didn't realize that guy had started this many games, whatever it may be. But for Dan, I think he just went into this wanting to get another yes in there because he had 5, and he probably started going down the list going, no, no, no. Well, I can't do all no's.
Yeah.
So one's got to be a yes. And I don't want 4 no's and 1 yes, so screw it. I guess Kirk could be done in 1. and he like tried to talk himself into it in his own writing.
I was gonna say the
When
quotes.
he felt
they
like-
were hard to read.
Yeah, I was like, dude, you're convincing yourself that this is not happening. Just stop.
Like I could tell when you were reading, you were like, "What?
Yeah.
Wait, hold on," and then you're like, "Okay, I have to keep reading."
Another question for everyone watching right now is, I believe all 55 viewers are some of the most loyal viewers we have because, let's be honest, it's July. There's not a whole lot to talk about in the NFL sphere. Do you guys enjoy the trivia? I enjoy making the questions, but the show's for you. So if you're not a big fan of the trivia, like, we don't have to continue doing it, but I do want to get some feedback, you know. I have to be that annoying, like, call rep right now that follows up after an appointment or a reservation, or I had a spin class this morning at 7:15, and I've already gotten like 2 texts. Did you have a great time?
Oh.
Can we rebook you?
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, let's slow down. I'm still catching my breath a little bit. Okay.
William
William
said
says yes. That's good. That's good to hear.
One yes is
We got one yes. It's a 100% vote right now.
Yes.
The popular vote and the Electoral College is going in my favor.
So
Jason says mark it down. What's up?
I think a good idea too would be for either some trivia questions. If anyone has any trivia questions,
Oh, yeah. That's a good one, too.
if you use the hashtag Falcons,
Ooh, I like that. See if you can stump me.
we can see if you can stump the great Petey, who
Whether-
is probably one of the better trivia players I've ever met. So
I do love trivia, whether it's Falcons or NFL or just general trivia. I'll take a swing at any question. Jason says yes. Appreciate that, Jason. Grand Limousine saying, yeah, the trivia is good. Taylor Elwell is here. Taylor, hope you're doing well. No pun intended. Maybe you get that often. I like the trivia. That's great to hear.
So,
Okay.
Also, I was gonna see.
Or maybe they're saying yes to this, so I don't know now.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, that was not okay.
Oh,
We'll assume it's yes.
we're
for
gonna
both.
say yes. We're gonna assume.
Yeah.
But so, do you guys actually pause the video, or do you just look it up, or just think about it for a second, or just wait for him to say?
I do like to ask questions that are very tough to look up.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. We got some question coming in from Dat One Falcons fan. Let's move on to the next segment as we get closer and closer to the mailbag.
Yes.
We're still looking for our first super chat today, so if you want to get on screen, support the channel, all in the same process, super chat, we'll throw it on for everyone watching to see. You could put a question, a take, an opinion, an idea, really anything you want, and all of our wonderful viewers will get a chance to see it. So, super chat's greatly, greatly appreciated. If you're unable to super chat, not a problem. I do ask, though, that you like the video because that is completely free. Okay, are we ready to jump into our next segment? Mr. Reed Barkus. Okay. We ready? We'll let you get set up for the next one. Grand Limousine Penix should at least set for 4 games to get NFL experience. Things are a lot fat. Yeah, I think we're going to see my guess is they're going to play Michael Penix a ton in the preseason because of what you're talking about. Like, hey, he's not going to play in the regular season, so let's make sure that if he ends up playing 2 years from now, he's got at least some preseason experience to Grand Limousine, like you pointed to, learn the speed of the NFL game. Okay. Here we go. Whenever Reed is ready, we are talking NFL trade rumors leading into training camp. You ready? Here we go. Let's talk NFL trade rumors on today's show going into training camp, as we're going to start to see some of the contract situations, spike a little bit in intensity, because if they are not resolved, that could lead to a potential holdout. And listen, holdouts during OTAs and minicamp are not a huge deal. Holdouts going into training camp, that's a different question. Now, before we get to some of the trade rumors going into training camp, which is less than 2 weeks away, if you want to sweep the Saints, like today's video, if you want to sweep the Buccaneers, type ATL. And if you want to sweep the Panthers, subscribe today. If you want to take down the entire NFC South, go a perfect 6-0, be the #1 Falcons fan on YouTube, like the video, drop an ATL, hit that sub button too. Now let's talk Hassan Reddick, an old friend of the channel, as he has made an appearance more than once at Falcons Today. But I do think that we are getting closer and closer to a potential breaking point between Reddick and the Jets. Now, the background information you need to know. Reddick was traded from the Eagles to the Jets for a 2026 conditional third-round draft pick, and since then, he has skipped all voluntary and mandatory workouts and spring practices as he is seeking a new deal. He's got 1 year left on his contract, scheduled to make $15 million, which is an absolute bargain for how productive he has been the last 4 seasons, but the Jets don't appear to be interested in extending Haason Reddick, which is what he wanted from the Eagles. Eagles weren't interested, so they said, listen, how about you go seek a trade, find another GM that will give you that contract, and we will work out a deal because we're going to go sign Bryce Huff in free agency to replace you. I don't see this ending well. From the moment Reddick was traded to the Jets, it was a bit weird. Like, the Jets let Bryce Huff walk in free agency. He's 26 years old. He signed a 3-year, $51 million contract. Are they about to turn around, get a draft, or give away a draft pick for Haason Reddick, and then give him a similar 3-year, $50 million contract for a guy 4 years older? That seems borderline malpractice or a fireable offense. Like, unless they just had this crazy gut feeling that Bryce Huff was about to fall off a cliff and Haason Reddick is only entering the best few years of his career, who in their right mind would give up a draft pick to get an older player and give that guy the same contract that they could have given one of their own who is 4 years younger? Right from the jump, I was like, why are the Jets doing this when they could have just saved that draft pick and signed their own guy who was a UDFA coming up their farm system who was awesome last year? Like, none of it made sense to me. And it continues to not make any sense to me. Now, Zach Rosenblatt from The Athletic, he recently did an article about Haason Reddick and the Jets, and I wanted to share some of the snippets with you. He wrote, Reddick held out from voluntary workouts this spring and then skipped mandatory minicamp this week as he seeks a raise on his current contract. It's a suboptimal start to his Jets career, especially, and listen to this part here, since the team was under the impression he intended to participate in the off-season program. Huh? Team was under the impression that he was going to participate in the off-season program? Where did they get that impression? Surely it wasn't from Reddick, because Reddick has had no intention of doing anything without a new contract. But somehow, the Jets missed that. Because look at what else Rosenblatt wrote. When the Jets acquired Reddick, they did not intend to redo his deal. At least initially, the expectation by many was that Reddick would play out this season on his current contract. You didn't do your research on the guy you gave up a third-round draft pick for? You just saw a good player on the market, made the deal, and didn't look at the tiny text that we all scroll by and then click agree? That's okay for us to do, but not you, the GM, the lawyers. That's your job. I act like I'm a Jets host right now. You didn't do the research that your new DN wanted a new contract and you just hoped that he'd show up to shit and that he'd be okay with playing out the last year of his deal? Were you living in Bikini Bottom? This just makes no sense. But this is the New York Jets organization we're talking about. And a lot of what they do makes no sense. So let's go down a bit of a timeline of the Haason Reddick trade. So April 1st, he is traded to the New York Jets. May 20th, first day of organized team activities. Reddick ain't there. All right, it's voluntary. We can make do with that. June 4th, mandatory minicamp. He ain't there. And this is probably the weirdest one of all. June 10th, they have a team photo shoot. Media days. He ain't there. He was the only player not present. This is starting to smell like a Bo Callahan situation. Like, even Aaron Rodgers, who was doing a whole bunch of drugs during this part of the offseason, was there on June 10th. Where was Haason Reddick? We have ourselves, in my opinion, a true standoff. And as we go into training camp, I think there is more than just a 1, 2, 3% chance that this continues to spiral in a negative way, because every indication from Hassan Reddick has shown us he ain't showing up without a new deal. And from the Jets' perspective, it would look so dumb to give him the same contract that the Eagles gave Bryce Huff, who came from the Jets and is 4 years younger. And you add in Hassan Reddick turning 30 years old. When you look at the New York Jets, like GM Douglas, he came over from the Philadelphia Eagles, like brain trust. They don't give 30-plus-year-olds big contracts very often. They only give that for special players. And not that Reddick isn't special, but he hasn't even suited up one game for the Jets yet. Do you think they're going to give him a fat extension before he even plays a single game for them? I don't, which makes the whole trade even more puzzling. So, my opinion is Hassan Reddick wants to join this list of names and faces on screen. He wants to be one of the top 10 highest paid pass rushers in football. Why? Because he is a top 10 pass rusher. Like, it's not always a direct correlation of where you are paid is what your rank is in the NFL, but he's making $15 million right now. I'm guessing he wants to join around the $20 to $25 million club. Like, he's probably looking at Danielle Hunter, Montez Sweat. He's in that same tier of those players. And the stats back it up. Look at the last 4 years. 11 sacks, 16 sacks, 11 sacks, 12 and a half sacks. So he's got a great argument that he should be making more than what he's currently making. Now, the age is working against him, and that's ultimately what's holding him back. But Hassan Reddick, make no mistake, has been one of the best pass rushers for the last 4 years. Like, look at where he ranks in sacks since 2020. 50.5 coming in at 4. Only behind Trey Hendrickson, Myles Garrett, and TJ Watt. So yeah, there's a good reason Reddick wants to get a pay bump. He's got a good argument, and I just don't understand why the Jets traded for him. So with all that being said, Atlanta, you have an opportunity to toss the New York Jets a lifeline and send them a draft pick. Sure, they're going to look silly. They gave up a third-round draft pick for a guy that would never play it down for them, and they'll probably only get a fifth-round draft pick in return because the Falcons have them by the balls. But at least it's better than nothing. Because at the moment, that's what they're getting from Hassan Reddick. Nothing. He ain't showing up. He's skipping photo day. That's the easiest day. So, take advantage of the dumb Jets and get a guy who is fourth in sacks since 2020 for a fifth-round draft pick. Please. And let him join the likes of this front five. Take out Lorenzo Carter. Slap in Mr. What's his name? I'm blanking already. Hassan Reddick. Get Arnold Ebiketie, Zach Harrison, David Onyemata, Grady Jarrett, and Hassan Reddick. And that is a front five that can do more than just tread water. That is a front five that can be one of the better pass rushing units in football with the insertion of one of the best pass rushers in football over the last half decade. So, I'll turn it over to you. Should Atlanta trade for Reddick? Give me a T for trade or give me a P for pass. We've got two more trades I want to look at here revolving around the NFC South. I know I'm taking up a lot of your time, but I do want to know what your thoughts are on this idea. Some other NFC South players now that could be on the move. Let's start with Bucs wide receiver Chris Godwin, the Robin to Mike Evans' Batman. So Chris Godwin, I saw, was mentioned in a Bleacher Report article as a potential bold trade candidate / idea during training camp. Now, Godwin signed a 3-year, $60 million deal, and this is the final year of that contract. He recently turned 28 years old, so he still has some good amount of gas left in the tank. But the Buccaneers going with wide receiver Jalen McMillan, in round 3 out of Washington. It's raised some eyebrows down in Tampa about Godwin's future with the Bucs. Ultimately, I don't think we're going to see Chris Godwin get dealt because that seems like a dumb thing to do. And the Bucs haven't been a dumb franchise. They haven't. But if they are serious about trying to keep the hot hand rolling of kind of capturing lightning in a bottle with Baker last year and then paying him, doesn't seem like it's a bright idea than to take away his number 2 wide receiver and bank on a third-round rookie to be a really ascending guy in year 1. Godwin, over the last 4 years, been a little bit up and down. Like, Last year, he was still a 1,000-yard receiver, but the touchdowns weren't quite there, just 2 scores. His receptions did go down from 104 to 83, but I still think Chris Godwin is one of the better wide receiver 2s in the National Football League. Now, before we look at another NFC South player that could be on the move soon, some trivia for everyone watching. Which Falcon is this? From 2011 to 2014, he was a Buccaneer. From 2015 to 17, he was a Falcon. Then a brief stint with the Patriots, back to Atlanta, and then ended his career in Cleveland. We will reveal the answer at the end of the show. Which Falcon is this? All right, second and final NFC South player on the move, cornerback Marshon Lattimore. There's been some chatter about Lattimore getting moved, and we'll unpack it all in just a second here. But if you want to get some more Falcons gear in your closet, go to chatsports.com/ATL combo. You can get this Falcons hat and t-shirt combo 45% off. So as training camp gets here, and then the preseason and the regular season, these sales are going to go away, and you're going to be paying 45% more. So save future use some money, because you know you're going to want to get some new gear in your life once the season starts, and save some buckaroos at chatsports.com/ATL combo. So Marshon Lattimore, the context surrounding him. He's got 3 years left on his deal, and financially, it doesn't make a ton of sense for the Saints to move on. Like, there'd be a $31.2 million dead cap hit awaiting them. There's not a whole bunch of cap savings to be had because the Saints were the Saints, and they just restructured everyone's contract and kicked the can down the road, and they don't have any playoff wins to show for it, and now they got to pay the price of that. But Lattimore has been largely unavailable for them the last 2 years. He's missed 17 games, missed 7 games last year, 10 games the season before that. He's getting up there a little bit in the age column, 28 years old, so I still think he can play at a high level. I don't think we'll see Lattimore get dealt before training camp or during training camp, but I do think we could see the Saints shopping Marshon Lattimore as we get closer to the NFL trade deadline. I think the Saints are going to kind of stink this year, and Lattimore could be a good value chip to a team that's feeling like they're just one DB away, maybe had some injuries at that position. We've seen cornerbacks get moved at the NFL trade deadline, so keep an eye on Lattimore getting dealt at that point. He still has been one of the better DBs in football, even if he's been suffering from injuries lately. Like, you can look at his stats over the last 4 years, 2 interceptions combined the last 2 seasons, pass breakups galore, of course, solid PFF grades. Like, as much fun as it is to shit talk the Saints for Falcons fans, Lattimore is still, a quality, dependable corner. But the Saints do have a lot of young players at that position. They drafted Kool-Aid McKinstry, so I think they could be, sizing him up to start early. And if that's the case, that could push out a veteran. But I don't think we'll see that push during training camp. Maybe in the middle of the season with the NFL trade deadline, and if the team's not playing super well. All right, our trivia question from earlier. The answer is defensive end Adrian Claiborne. Played with Atlanta from 2015 to 2017. And then again in 2019. All right, that will do it for us on today's episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see everyone later. All right. ATL Jet Jones. I see you asked a question. I appreciate that question. Put that question in the chat again with hashtag Falcons somewhere in your message. That way our producer Reed can pull that question and put it on screen, and I'll give you a much more thorough answer. Everyone trading T for trade. We're all in on Hassan Reddick. Okay. Man, I don't understand what the Jets were doing. And I meant to say this in the video, and this happens to me time to time. It's just like a content creator nightmare of, like, you think of something before the video, you come in with it, and then you don't say it, and you're like, damn, I wanted to say that. But after watching just 2 episodes of Hard Knocks with the Giants, I always thought that the conversations that these front office execs had were at a very complex level. And from what we've seen, it's relatively simplistic.
What we talk about in the office.
It's not that different than the way we talk about it at a bar. And so we always thought, like, well, sure, but these GMs, they talk about it surely in a much more, like, analytically driven data
the velocity
way.
of,
yeah.
Like,
And then instead you're watching, you're like, so what do you think Burns would go for? I don't know, maybe a first. Like, what? Like, I thought you guys would, like whip out this spreadsheet of, like, based on his age, his contract, how many sacks he had last year, his projected sacks this year, we project I was like, so you guys are not that different at all from us. Now,
Petey does
maybe
that.
there are a lot of other conversations that aren't aired by HBO on Hard Knocks, but because of that, to land this plane, after seeing how simplistic some of these conversations can be, I have no doubt the Jets were just dumb. The dots I connected. You let Bryce Huff walk
That was
to trade for a guy that's going to want the same contract that Bryce Huff just got, probably more than that.
And I mean, to be fair, Hassan Reddick, like you said, is 4th in sacks since 2020.
Yeah.
And Bryce Huff, although he's good, he's not that good, but he's also way younger and has a future, and you don't have to pay him that much.
And also, he was your guy. He was a UDFA. He made NFL record for the biggest payday in UDFA history. He comes off a 10-sack season.
Yeah.
Guys, Hassan Reddick, his first years weren't that great. It took him a couple of years to get to where he is now. Bryce Huff is kind of just entering that mode, and you decide, we'll let him walk.
It's like you buying a plant. You buy the big plant, but it's a lot more expensive and it'll die in a little bit.
Yeah.
Or you buy the littler plant and you keep watering it, and it grows into a bigger plant.
It's already grown. Yeah.
It's growing. It's there. It's just a little bit smaller.
So there are some clowns in New York.
Yeah.
And the Falcons should take advantage of that. They should be on the phone right now for Hassan Reddick. My guess is the Jets are like, no, we're not trading him away. We just traded for him. But, how much longer are they going to keep up this act before they have to come with terms of either extend him, pray he comes, or trade him?
They know what he wants. They just don't know if they want to pay that.
I guess the thing that the Jets have in their back card is their back pocket is there's no way Hassan Reddick truly skips the entire year, forfeits all of his pay, and takes on fines.
He wasn't there for photo day.
That's what they're banking on. It's all right, we can put up with all that, but he will eventually show up. At least that's what they're hoping.
Tony Wright said the Atlanta Falcons will have one of the best defensive front sevens in football. They will be in the top 10.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Are we ready to jump into... Hey, Ty Man, the Buckeyes here. Good to see you, Ty Man. Some questions. Now, if you have a question, super chat if you'd like, and you'll skip the line. Grand Limousine, a super chat legend here at the channel, or anyone else for that matter that wants to ask a question that we'll put in front of everyone else's for everyone watching to see. Feel free to do so. If not, just go in the chat and use hashtag Falcons somewhere in your question. Okay. Are we ready to jump into a mailbag, Mr. Reed? Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, we're getting ready for a mailbag? What's that? No. All right. Jason Greenway. Over under Kyle Pitts, 900 yards CLNS. We haven't had Prize Picks as a sponsor in a little bit, but I'm guessing that I think they're going to come back when football gets closer. There's just no sports really to go more or less on. All right. Yeah. Oh, we can do that one later. Yeah. All right, here we go. Okay. Take two. Even Ty Man the Buckeyes getting on in on the CLNS action. All right. We got 58 viewers right now, 48 likes. 2 of you watching. Like the video so we can get to 50 likes. I'm I don't know if this is going to speak to the older crowd a little bit or if the younger crowd can get this, but I'm currently watching the show Monk. It's I kind of call it a live action Scooby-Doo in some ways. It came out in 2002. It's a murder mystery PI investigator show, but he's got OCD. Well, it's not like Dexter or anything. The investigator's got OCD and he's a germaphobe, so he doesn't want to do anything, but he just looks at the crime scene. He's I saw the murder. So my Monk moment is we're at 48 likes. We got to get to 50. ATL fan is here. Good to see you, man. All right, we ready to rock and roll? Here we go. Welcome on into a Falcons mailbag. Matthew Peterson here answering questions that were asked during our live show, which PSA airs every single Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern. Now, our first one coming in from Cousin Stan. Cousin Stan asking, Michael Thomas is still out there. Would you sign Slant Boy for cheap? No. Because if you're signing Michael Thomas, you're signing him because of the name and the recognition of what he was able to do years ago. But you're not getting that guy anymore. That guy's gone. Michael Thomas, the last 4 years, has been largely unavailable and largely unproductive. So, yeah, at one point he was a big name, but I don't think you're going to find that production anymore. So I ain't interested in Michael Thomas. Sorry. That one Falcons fan. I heard rumors that Matthew Judon is unlikely to return to New England, so why not trade for him? Here's my trade scenario. Matthew Judon and a 2025 fourth, and New England gets a 2025 second and fourth. So basically Judon for a second, more or less here at that one Falcons fan. I don't think it's going to cost you a second for Judon. He's coming off a down year, coming off an injury-plagued season, or, not plagued, but only played 4 games. And he's entering the final year of his contract, so not a whole bunch of long-term control in that regard. I'm all for adding an edge rusher, don't get me wrong. I don't think you have to give up a second for Judon, though. I don't think you'll see Judon get traded before the season starts. I think we'll see Judon get traded before the trade deadline. I'd almost say that's a guarantee. I think the Patriots are going to stink it up this year, and as a result, they will be unloading some of their veteran assets like Matthew Judon. If anyone would be interested in Juju Smith-Schuster, I bet he'd be available, but I wouldn't be surprised if he just gets cut because he sucks. So I'm all for trading for Judon. I don't think it's going to even cost you a second-round pick, but I don't think it would happen until the NFL trade deadline. Plus, I think the Falcons are going to want to try and bet on some of their younger guys, at least out of the gates a little bit more. Frank Lopez, which game should I attend? Pittsburgh or Kansas? So you got a week 1 against the Pittsburgh Steelers or Sunday Night Football against the Kansas City Chiefs, where the honorable owner of the Falcons, Arthur Blank, is inducting himself into the Ring of Honor. I would say Chiefs. And here's why. If the Falcons win that game, that's going to be a great one to share with everyone that you attended. As fun as it is just to go to any NFL game, and like a Pittsburgh Steelers home game, or home game against the Pittsburgh Steelers and a homecoming for Arthur Smith, being able to see Patrick Mahomes, as fanboy as that sounds, I think it's something you wouldn't want to pass on. So I'd go with the Chiefs. It's Sunday Night Football. If they can win, man, you're going to tell everyone for the next year, I was at that Chiefs game. Taylor Elwell, next one up. Is Ray McCloud a lock to do all the returns? I wouldn't say necessarily a lock, like he's at the lockiest lane in Lockland, USA, but I think he's pretty close to it. They're getting Avery Williams back. Remember, he tore his ACL last year early in training camp, so there'll be some competition there. But also, it's going to be a 2-man job. Teams have to have 2 players in the landing zone, which is the goal line to the 20-yard line. So we're going to have 2 return men. Now, we'll see how teams kind of set it up and design it, whether they're staggered, 1 at each hash, and whoever goes to, that's where they return it, or if they're kind of like, a gentleman's and beer pong, a little I formation action, and whoever's supposed to be the designated return man will run to that ball. But I think Ray McCloud is going to be your primary returner. They signed him for an explicit reason, and it ain't to play wide receiver. Cap a lot of bussin'. If Cousins wins a Super Bowl, will he pass Matt Ryan as the best franchise player? I don't think so. For this, I often draw a comparison to the Miami Heat franchise. Is LeBron James the best player in Miami Heat franchise? Like, sure, he's probably the best basketball player that ever put on a Heat jersey, but I think Dwayne Wade is the best Heat player of all time because of the longevity and the success that Wade was able to capture on his own and then with LeBron. Now, unfortunately for Matt Ryan, he was not able to win one on his own, but still, I think the longevity aspect of it, I don't think Kirk Cousins getting 1 Super Bowl in 3, maybe 4 years in Atlanta, even though it is a soupy, I don't think that can overcome what Matt Ryan was able to do for this franchise, which was, before he got there, like one of the losingest franchises, and he was able to help stabilize it, and since he's been gone, it's been very clear and evident like how important he was to this team when it came to winning. Jason Greenway, over or under Kyle Pitts 900 yards. CLNS, one more drinking show. I'm gonna say over. Yeah, I'm gonna say over, and here's why. You know Drake London's gonna get his targets. He's gonna get his yards. He's gonna get his grabs. Darnell Mooney is next in line at wide receiver. I don't think Darnell Mooney is that huge of a threat to Kyle Pitts' targets. And I think Pitts could, go bar for bar with Mooney when it comes to targets, ball for ball. So, yeah, I'll pencil myself into the over. I think I'm partially also giving off a little bit of radiation of like July eagerness for football, where ask me any question about the upcoming season, and I'll take the positive route because I'm just so excited for football to be back. But I'll cautiously take the over. 900 is a big number, but he got to 1,000 his rookie year with Matt Ryan. Why can't he get to 1,000 with Kirk Cousins? All right, before we move on to the rest of the questions on today's episode, get with the #1 Falcons YouTube channel out there. There is no other Falcons YouTube channel that is larger than our channel other than the Falcons' own YouTube channel. And we are probably going to catch up to them at some point. So make sure you're getting the best Falcons YouTube content possible by hitting that sub button. The Dogstis? Something like that. Will Bijan Robinson be a top 5 running back after this season? Okay, there's a couple of ways to measure top 5 running back, but I'll assume you're saying like top 5 in rushing yards. I think he will. He was 15th at the end of last year. He was 6th in total yards of rushing and receiving. And the verbiage that was used in the offseason was Bijan's going to be more of a runner this year and maybe pull back a little bit on his receiving abilities or his receiving responsibilities. So I think there is a very high chance we see Bijan crack the top 5. Plus, if you guys looked at the running back crop for this upcoming season, when we went through that era of like Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Ben Roethlisberger, Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, once they'd all retired, it was like, damn, all the legends we grew up with are gone. We're at that point now with running backs. Look around a little bit. There's Christian McCaffrey. The next best running back, Breece Hall, Kyron Williams, James Cook, Bijan. He's not going up against prime AP. Derrick Henry's kind of cooked at this point. Joe Mixon's washed. Nick Chubb's coming off a torn ACL, so that's kind of a question mark. Saquon, he's kind of been injury-plagued the last few years. So I don't think it's that great of a running back class at the moment that Bijan can't just slip into the top 5, even without looking like what a top 5 running back would look like in previous years. I think we can see Bijan finish top 5. All right, Archangel, next one up. Could Penix truly light a bigger flame up under Kirk if Penix shows up and shows out during preseason and have captain slaying us to the playoffs and possibly deep within the playoffs? Okay, Archangel, you got to help me out a little bit here. So, are you asking if Archangel could, take the Falcons to the playoffs, or what am I missing here? Let's circle back to this one. Archangel, I'll let you clear it up because I'm just a little confused myself, and I want to give you the best answer possible. So, Archangel, we'll come back to your question. ATL Jet Jones, what do you think about Troy Anderson getting a shot at returning kickoffs? I know it wouldn't happen, but I think his size and speed, who would want to tackle that guy? That's a good point. The kickoffs this year, I think the return men are going to be better suited if they approach it like a running back compared to the previous kickoff rule. Previous rule was to be a track star, right? Was to get the ball and to immediately run as fast as possible because they're running at you with a head start as fast as possible. The new rules are they can't move until you touch the ball. So once you catch the ball, then they start moving and everyone's starting off at the same speed. And that kind of reminds me of every single play during the offense at the line of scrimmage. Defense isn't moving until the offense starts moving, right? Once the ball is snapped, we get a collision. And in those situations, do you put running backs in the backfield or wide receivers in the backfield? You put your running back in the backfield because it's more about patience and recognizing the hole and bursting through it. not about just straight line speed, which is what you get from your wide receivers. So I know that didn't really directly answer the Troy Anderson element of your question, but I think that's what you're going to be looking for in return men this year. So could Troy Anderson do that? Probably not. Like, he still has to catch the ball at the 1 yard line and get a good sprint in all the way to the 20-25 before they start closing in. That's a long way for the big fella to run. I don't think that's a good idea. Andrew Beto. Oh, $2 super chat from Andrew. Thank you very much, Andrew. Would you guys want Keanu Neal back for cheap? Not like against it. I'll put it this way. If you want to get away with anything, just say blank for cheap. And how can I be against that? It's for cheap. The Falcons have 3 big bets on defense. Zach Harrison, Clark Phillips, DeMarco Hellams. I've said it before on the videos I've done here, and I'll say it again. I would not mind hedging any of those bets. Bring in some veteran. If that rookie or that second-year man actually, lives up to expectations, all right, it's for cheap. What do we care? It's not my money. So, Andrew, I've got no qualms. Archangel, I'm saying if Penix shows out during the preseason, has a great preseason, could that spark a flame under Kirk and make Captain Kirk great? Okay. Make Captain Kirk great again. Oh, boy. We're going to get a lot of commenters on this one. Yeah, I would think the competitive nature could kick in. So, sure. That's like a personal level for Kirk Cousins that I think you have to know Kirk on a personal level to know how he would kind of respond to if Penix is awesome in the preseason, if Penix is on the front lines of all the papers, if he's the number one topic in the media room, if the whole locker room is rallying around him, how does he, respond to that? He's kind of turtle up and be like, all right, well, if you guys like Penix so much, play him. I don't care. Or is he going to be like, all right, I'll win you guys over? I think you have to know Kirk Cousins on a personal level to know the answer to that question. That one, Falcons fan. Who leads the Falcons in a single game sacks all time? Good question. 3 names come to mind as possible candidates. Vic Beasley, John Abraham. Adrian Claiborne was a question we had on the last trivia question, so I'll partially put him in there. Man, it feels too obvious to say John Abraham, but I kind of want to say John Abraham.
I will.
Producer Reed?
Yeah, I will fact check you. I have the answer right here.
Is it one of those 3 guys?
You said the name.
Okay, so it's one of those 3 guys. It's not Vic Beasley. I don't think it's Vic Beasley. Although probably now is Vic Beasley. Screw it. I'll go with Adrian Claiborne.
You are correct.
Let's go! It felt destiny
you.
After he was the answer the last time. I was like,
tried to trick
yeah. Good trivia. Good trivia. That's today's trivia question for everyone. Okay. Let's run through just the rest of the super chats on our mailbag, and then we'll let you guys get on with the rest of your day here. Or do you have another question?
Yeah, we have one last.
All right, one last question. Sorry, I'm going out of turn here. All right, final question coming in from Cousin Stan. Yet again. Any chance the Falcons trade Tyler Algier to the Cowboys? I have seen the Cowboys are in the market for a running back. Like Zeke is their current starter, I think, right now. That's a bit concerning. So Tyler Algier would be the starter in Dallas, and I don't think it's a bad idea to trade Tyler Algier, but I don't think it's something you have to rush to do. He's a 1,000-yard rusher 2 seasons ago. He's a really good goal line and short yardage situation back. He could have a role on this offense. My thinking is this is going to be a heavy pass-dominated offense. So if, let's say, the Falcons give their running backs 300 carries a season last year, and let's say 200 went to Bijan and 100 went to Tyler Algier, just to keep the math easy. I think this year we see 300 carries go to running backs, but now it's 225 to Bijan, 75 to Algier. So if Algier is just not getting a lot of touches because you want to pass the ball so much that you're not adding more run plays in so that Algier and Bijan can get the same amount of touches they had last year or similar to, then it makes some sense to trade him, right? But I think the Falcons will be patient. They won't be in a rush. And it could be very well a situation where if a team loses their running back in training camp or preseason and they get a phone call that say, listen, we'll give you a 4th-round pick for your backup running back. It'd be borderline malpractice for the Falcons not to take them up on that offer, right? And it's next man up mentality, and you've got a new backup running back behind Bijan. But I think it has to be something like that in order for an Algier trade to get facilitated. All right, that will do it for us on today's mailbag. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give us a like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see everyone next time. We got some super chats rolling in. Appreciate everyone for super chatting. I saw Grand Limousine get the party started.
Grand Limousine coming in with a 20.
Like, the dog is more than just a 4th. Guys, the Falcons gave up a 6 and a 7th-round pick swap for Van Jefferson, a backup receiver last year. What do you think Algier's going for?
Yeah.
Like, he's a backup too. Like, sure, he had a 1,000-yard season, but Van Jefferson isn't too far removed from also having some good years. So if a team offers you a 4th for a backup, you take that, especially when you just lost a 5th-round draft pick because of the alleged tampering. Grand Limousine, though, thank you so much for the super chat. Shout out to you. Always appreciate you for being a real one here at Falcons Today. Longtime viewer and a great supporter of the channel. And I guess the official limousine partner of Falcons Today. So if you're in Atlanta and you're looking to catch a ride in a nice one too, go check out Grand Limousine. Archangel, what's going on, dude? Let's get a PDP. We only a couple weeks away. 8 weeks away from week 1. That is my only countdown. I do not count down to preseason games. You're going to see other people do that on Twitter. They are fishing for engagement. They're like, we are 4 weeks away from preseason. Like if you're excited. And it's like, listen, I'm not against that overall approach, but not for preseason football. It's the biggest case of blue balls known to mankind. Regular season is when football is back. And I'll be the first to say that right now because it's going to happen soon. I already know that Ari Miroff or someone else is going to tweet out in 3 or 4 weeks. And you know what the tweet's going to be, Reed?
What is it?
This is the last weekend without football for the next 39 weeks. Nope. We still don't have football.
Yeah.
Because you know how I know that? None of you are watching other preseason games.
Yeah.
No one on their Saturday sits down and watches another team's preseason game.
I hate that.
So you watch other regular season games because it's football. But all of a sudden when it's a preseason game, you ain't watching. That's because it's not football. Football's not back.
And it's like, oh, we're football's almost, or football's here.
Yeah.
That's what I hate. Football's here. No.
Archangel, I don't want you to take this entire tangent as me coming at you. This is just the broader scope of people. They're like, football is back for the first preseason game. Football is a couple weeks away.
We
are a couple weeks away. Yeah. But and don't get me wrong, I'll be excited with training camp. You'll have some fresh content to talk about. You'll get some more looks at the team and whatnot. But I just don't want anyone watching to fall victim to guys, we got football back. It's back, baby. Do not say those words until the Chiefs kick off against the Ravens. I actually will schedule a tweet for 7:16 p.m. Central, 8:16 p.m. Eastern for that Thursday night game, and I'll say football is now officially back because it's only back when the NFL regular season kicks off. Andrew Beto, good to see you, dude. We talked about this in the mailbag, but Andrew, thank you so much for the super chat. I'm not against it. Not against it at all. But everyone watching, give Andrew your thoughts in the comment section. ATL Jet Jones, #1 Falcons content. Thank you. I really, really appreciate that. Love what I do. Love getting a chance to, talk shop with you guys and hang out. So thank you to everyone who watches, subscribes, all that great stuff. But ATL Jet Jones, shout out to you, man. #1 ATL Jet Jones fan out here, Matthew Peterson.
Now, I was trying to find our graphic for first time.
We got first time super chatter. Let's go. We got Draven DeLeon. I think that's how you pronounce it. DeLeon. 99-cent super chat. Draven, shout out to you, man. Dirty Birds for life. Appreciate all of your support and everyone that super chats. Thank you so much, dude. Go Falcons. And I'm excited for this upcoming season. Draven also put a question in the chat, so we'll kind of tie this together.
Oh, cool.
PD, how would you feel about Falcons going after Travis Hunter, and would you want him as a wide receiver or corner? Travis Hunter is going to play corner in the NFL. I know right now he's going on both sides of the football. That's not going to happen in the NFL. It's just not possible.
He's too small.
I think, yeah. He's too small, like Reed pointed out. I'm saying can't be possible. Like, this isn't a Shohei Ohtani example. Like, physically, you just can't play 4 quarters on both ends. And also, you're not going to be as effective at one half of your job because you're not going to your coach on the sideline watching tape as to what they are doing. This is not backyard football. It cannot be done. So I think he'll be a corner. I mean, I'm not against. I will say I think people need to pump the brakes a little bit on the entire Colorado hype. Like, NCAA has them ranked way too high. They won 4 games last year. They collapsed against Stanford. They have some talent on their team, but I'm not on board with the idea of they're just going to walk into greatness this year and Shedeur will be the first overall pick and Travis will be the second overall pick. I think they're going to get drafted. They may go round 1. Hopefully the Falcons are picking very late in round 1, and maybe they find Travis Hunter at that point. But if they do, I think it'll be as a corner.
I think he's a great player, but he has a lot more developing to do. I think if he's serious about being, a player in the NFL, he's got to pick one side at some point.
Yeah.
And sort of stick to that. If he wants to get really good at one of them, you can't be pretty good at both. And, I feel like you should be great at just one.
We'll end with this one here from ATL fan. When is training camp? It's July 24th, so 13 days, almost 2 weeks from now. All right, that will do it for us on our live show today. Thank you to everyone who tunes in. It's a great way to spend Thursday, and I hope you enjoy it as well. If you're not subscribed and you're still watching, I don't know what more you're waiting for. Hit the sub button down below. You're going to get the best free Falcons content out there. Enjoy your Thursday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I will be at a World War II museum in Fredericksburg, Texas. If anyone wants to stop by, a Pacific Theater World War II museum in a German town. So I will be spending my Saturday pointing out the irony in that.